they're bringing in the police state here. You've got military working with law enforcement on different levels, setting up checkpoints. Now there's bomb scares all throughout New York City. Last night there was one. It turned out to be some yard worker with a lawnmower and a gas can, and they shut down part of the city. The list goes on and on. It's turning kind of Orwellian down here in the States. What kind of besides the G20 and the buildup of the police state for the G20 in specific, have you noticed any police state activity and buildup in your area up in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, these things happen incrementally, but I have certainly noticed it. Just last week with one of my guys being arrested for filming on a public sidewalk, and their reason for that, they said flat out, it's due to heightened security because of the G20 summit. A couple months ago, I went to cover a Al Gore event. Al Gore was in town, and we went down to cover that. And private security asked us to leave, and it was private property. So we said, okay, we'll leave. So we left, and we left their property, and we continued to do our report on the outside of their property. When they came up and just flat out assaulted us, he almost broke my camera. He grabbed my wrist, my cameraman's wrist. All three of our hands were on the camera. It's all on tape, and it's just it's a sign of the encroaching police state. I don't know how these guys are being trained. Maybe there's been a change in how police school basically, and how these guys are being brought up. It's certainly not the way it used to be many, many years ago. You might see old clips from, the 50s and 60s where those were good police. Those were police who cared for the people and were really trying to help the situation and help society, but things have changed. And it's not hard to see. You can see it with your own eyes when you have police walking around in ski masks with M4 assault rifles and full riot gear, walking around in the streets. So that's certainly a sign that there is a police state growing, especially here in Canada.
Oh, for sure. They can't have Press for Truth out of Canada covering an Al Gore event, exposing the ClimateGate climate change fraud right there. It's basically just lick my boots, slave. It's getting to be ridiculous.
Yeah. We actually followed up on that incident. And we contacted the head of security who was involved in that incident, and because everything was caught on tape, so they saw it all, and they ended up issuing. They sent us a letter of apology, and he called me personally on the phone and said, Dan, I apologize. We're going to send you a letter of apology, and I want to assure you that the employee in question is going to be disciplined, and we want to thank you for bringing this to our attention, because we're going to inform the rest of our staff on the right way to handle those kinds of situations. So we did have a victory in that sense, where we followed up in the weeks after the incident, and they ended up issuing us a letter of apology, which I was happy to see. I was prepared to take it to the point of assault charges, but the fact that they admitted that they were wrong and they apologized, that was a victory for us.
Wow. What I was going to ask you, what kind of patriots do you have in Canada? Do you have a lot of patriots up there, people that stand up for your Constitution and that sort of thing, or is it, kind of not as many as you would like to see? How is your patriot community up there?
Well, it's growing. It's definitely growing. I am more and more these days, I'm surprised by the amount of people who are starting to question these things. I think a lot of people around here, they realize that mainstream media is not exactly telling them the truth. They realize deep down inside that something is not right. They maybe don't know what it is, but they know something's a little off, and they're beginning to look to alternative places for information. And so there's the truth movement, as we call it, is definitely growing here in Canada, but we need to continue that now. Now's the time to keep it going strong. But no, I would say there is a good amount of Canadian patriots, certainly in my circles. I know quite a lot of people who are doing a lot of really, really good work around here.
Good. Yeah, I myself have been noticing it growing down here, the Patriot movement in the States, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So we need to just keep on pushing the message out, and you guys are doing a fantastic job over there at Press for Truth. Their site's www.pressfortruth.ca. We're talking to Dan Dix. Getting into some of your previous work, you got a YouTube channel. You're Weaving Spider on YouTube.
Yes.
I think you went down to DC, my producer Alex was telling me, and you filmed some of the occultic layout of DC. Can you explain some of that to us?
Yeah, sure. We that was all part of getting footage for United We Fall. We went down to interview Luke Rudowski in New York, and we figured, Washington's only an hour or two drive away, so we figured we'd go and check it out. The first thing we noticed was how difficult it was to drive around in that city. The road designs are ridiculous, and the reason for that is because they're not designed for functionality. They are designed under occult principles. The entire layout of Washington, D.C. is being originally designed by occultists. And we went around to a lot of the major things, like the Washington Monument, the giant Egyptian obelisk there. We went up to the Supreme Council headquarters of the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which is just a few blocks north of the White House. And we walked all around the Washington, D.C. for a day, and I just couldn't, one day was not enough. I want to go back sometime and cover more, because there's so much going on in that place.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't been there myself, but I mean, I know like the streets are laid out in like a pentagram format. I mean, there's just occultic signs and symbols everywhere throughout. Anything stand out in particular?
Well, you mentioned pentagrams. Like, I saw a lot of pentagrams. The five-pointed star, which the mainstream people would know that Satanists and things like that use that symbol. But you'll see that everywhere in Washington, D.C. And not only is it everywhere, but the street design is literally laid out in giant pentagrams. Just down the street from one of those, you got the Pentagon. So the whole place is lined out for that. And whether or not what kind of occultic power they get from this, or gives off this kind of energy or this or that, is to be debated, but they certainly believe in it, and they certainly put a lot of time and effort into following, what they can get out of the occult.
Oh yeah. From your knowledge, is there any occultic monuments or places in Canada that you know about?
Yeah. I mean, our very own Parliament Hill in Ottawa is filled with occultic stuff. I went down to cover that once, and I was just blown away by the symbolism all over that building. They actually have an altar on the inside, like a Masonic altar. Now, this is our Parliament Hill, representing Canada. So all over the outside there was goats and ram heads and pentagrams and all gargoyles, and the whole building was just riddled in occult symbols. So yeah, that's the very heart of Canada, really.